Quick note before we start. I'm not a vet, and this is general information, not medical advice. If you think your dog has already eaten something bad, don't wait for the video to finish. Call your vet or an animal poison control line right now. The busiest stretch of the year for emergency vets is the days around Thanksgiving, and it's mostly not chocolate. It's leftovers. Turkey skin, the fat somebody trimmed off the ham, a spoonful of gravy dumped over the kibble because the dog was doing the thing with the eyes. None of that is poison. That's what gets people. Plain turkey's fine. Little bit of cheese, fine. Butter's not going to kill anything by itself. But dump a big load of fat into a dog that eats the exact same dry food every single day, and the pancreas kinda panics, starts chewing on the wrong things. That's pancreatitis, and it's ugly. Vomiting, the hunched up praying position, won't eat, belly hard as a table. Couple nights on IV fluids, bill that ruins your month. And the amount that does it is way smaller than you'd think. People hear just a little, and they're picturing a little for a person. 12-pound terrier gets 3 bites of buttered ham. That's proportionately, most of a dinner plate. 90-pound lab, same 3 bites. Probably nothing happens. Honestly, this is the one I'd worry about more than the exotic stuff, because it never feels like a mistake while you're doing it. Nobody feels guilty handing a dog a piece of steak fat. You feel generous. Dog's thrilled. Then it's 2 a.m. and you're in a parking lot with a towel. Nobody can tell you how many grapes is too many. That's the part that bugs me. There's no number, no chart, no weight-based rule, nothing. Because the amount that wrecks one dog does absolutely nothing to the dog next door. And for decades, nobody even knew what the poison was. Real labs, serious toxicologists, and the answer was basically a shrug. Current best guess is tartaric acid, and that only came together around 2021 after some dogs got sick off homemade Play-Doh, the kind with cream of tartar in it, which, not exactly how you want science to happen. Grapes also vary. Different varieties, different ripeness, wildly different levels of the stuff. So the same handful off the same vine isn't even the same dose twice. Raisins are worse per piece, obviously, since a raisin's just a grape with the water taken out. Sultanas and Zante currants are the same deal. Those are dried grapes too, whatever the label calls them. Worth saying though, fresh black currants and red currants are a completely different plant and aren't part of this conversation. And the fruit bowl's the obvious one, but it's also trail mix, oatmeal cookies, raisin bread, that little red buck's in a kid's lunch. What it does is shut the kidneys down. Not every dog, not every time, but when it goes bad fast. And once the kidneys are actually failing, you're in a genuinely rough spot. So you don't wait and see on this one. You call, you go that night, even if the dog seems totally fine, especially if the dog seems totally fine. "60 milligrams. That's roughly what you get in an ounce of milk chocolate. And I mean theobromine. That's the main thing doing the damage. There's caffeine in there too, working the exact same way, and the fat and sugar can set off their own separate problems. But theobromine's the headline, and it's the one dogs clear out of their system way slower than we do. Half-life in a dog is somewhere around 17 hours. In us, it's a few. Now bump it up. Dark chocolate's running around $1.50 an ounce, depending on the cocoa percentage. Baking chocolate, the unsweetened stuff nobody eats on purpose, can hit 400 plus. So when somebody tells you, oh, he ate a whole bar and he was totally fine, okay, sure. If it was a standard milk chocolate bar and the dog's an 80-pound lab, yeah, honestly, probably fine. Some vomiting, bad night. Swap the lab for a chihuahua, and swap that milk chocolate bar for baking squares, and you're in a completely different evening. Same word on the label, just nowhere near the same amount of the stuff that matters. The rough number people work off is about 20 milligrams per kilo before you get the jittery stuff. Throwing up, panting, can't settle. 40-50, you're into heart rhythm problems. 60 and up, seizures. I don't know. I think how worried should I be is kind of the wrong question anyway. You can't eyeball it. Was that 40% cocoa or 80? 2 truffles or 9? Did the wrapper go down too? Call the vet. Tell them the weight, the kind, how long ago. Let them run the math. It's a 5-minute phone call. Your dog gets the onions off your burger on a Tuesday, and by Wednesday, he's fine, bouncing around, totally normal dog. And that's the whole problem with this one, honestly. Onions, garlic, leeks, shallots, chives, same plant family, same basic mechanism. There are sulfur compounds in there that our bodies shrug off, and a dog's really doesn't. What they do is oxidize the hemoglobin inside the red blood cells, and that damaged protein clumps up into little deposits called Heinz bodies. The spleen sees a cell full of those and pulls it out of circulation. Do that to enough cells, and the body's clearing them out faster than it can build new ones. That's anemia. That's a dog who's suddenly exhausted walking to the mailbox. Gums gone pale, pee gone a weird dark color. And it takes days, 3-4 days sometimes. So by the time it's obvious, nobody's connecting it back to the burger. And the raw stuff isn't even the main way this happens. Powder's worse. Onion powder, garlic powder, dehydrated, so it's concentrated way up. Soup broth, that leftover seasoned chicken, garlic bread, which dogs love and which I'd rather they didn't have. The working rule is about 0.5% of body weight in onion, which for a small dog lands right around 1/4 of a medium onion. Garlic runs roughly 5 times stronger per gram, but nobody's dog is eating a whole bulb. Which brings me to garlic supplements for fleas. People still sell those. I don't get it. Feeding a dog a small dose of a thing that damages blood cells on purpose forever to maybe annoy a flea? Cooked chicken bone goes down easy. That's the problem. It goes down easy, and then it hits the stomach acid and it doesn't dissolve. It just shatters differently. Cooking dries the collagen out. Raw bone bends a little. Cooked bone snaps into these little spear-shaped pieces with actual edges on them. And people know this. The cooked bone thing, everybody's heard it. What nobody tells you is the raw ones aren't a free pass either. Big weight-bearing beef bones, the femur, the marrow bone at the pet store, the one that looks like a cartoon dog toy, those are harder than a dog's teeth, literally harder. Dog cranks down on it with the big shearing tooth in the back, and the tooth loses. Slab fracture, vertical crack, exposed pulp, and the fix is a root canal or pulling it on a dog, under anesthesia, for a chew treat. Then there's the other end of it, and I mean that literally. Bone fragments come through and set up like cement in the colon. Dog straining, nothing happening, and you're at the emergency vet at 11 at night. The wolf argument comes up here. Wolves eat bones, dogs are basically wolves, therefore. Sure, but a wolf that gets hurt doing it doesn't get an x-ray and a surgeon. It just doesn't make it to next season. Nothing about a wild canid's life expectancy is a standard I'd want to hold a house dog to. Survival isn't the same thing as safety, and the animals it goes badly for never end up in anybody's data set. I'm not saying never. I'm saying the marrow bone isn't the safe one just because it isn't a chicken wing. A macadamia nut weighs about 2-3 grams. The dose that reliably causes trouble is somewhere around 2.5 grams of nut per kilo of dog. So on a 10-pound terrier, that's 4 or 5 nuts. A small handful, not a bag. And signs have shown up at a fraction of that. So treat the handful as the upper end of the range, not a line you're safe underneath. And what happens is so specific. It's got a nickname in vet offices. The Wobble. Dog's back legs go, not paralysis. The dog's awake, alert, trying to walk, and the hind end just isn't taking orders. Tremors sometimes. Fever, real fever, 104, usually inside 12 hours. People bring these dogs in convinced it's a slipped disc or a stroke. Because that's exactly what it looks like. I figured this one was internet nonsense for a long time, honestly. It sounds made up. It isn't. The part that actually bugs me is nobody knows why. Genuinely. Cases have been turning up in poison control data since the late 80s. The first real case series hit the journals in the early 90s, and the mechanism is still a shrug. Some compound in the nut, some effect on nerve or muscle, that's about as far as anyone's gotten. We can sequence a dog's entire genome, and we can't tell you what a macadamia does to it. Good news, sort of. It's almost never fatal on its own. Most dogs are fine in a day, maybe two. Supportive care, done. Except macadamias mostly show up covered in chocolate, or in a cookie loaded with butter, which is its own pancreatitis problem. So the nut's the mild part of whatever the dog actually ate, and that's the part that gets missed. Bread dough on the counter sits at, 70 degrees? Warm room, happy yeast. A dog's stomach runs about 101. So for the yeast, getting swallowed is basically a spa day. And it keeps doing the one thing yeast does. Eats sugar, puts out carbon dioxide and alcohol. Except now it's doing it inside a sealed, wet 101-degree bag. The dough rises, keeps rising, in a stomach that was never meant to be a proofing drawer. That's problem one, the mechanical one. The stomach stretches, presses up on the diaphragm, blood flow gets squeezed, and in a deep-chested dog, you're one bad roll away from a twist. Emergency inside the emergency. Problem two is that the alcohol is real alcohol, ethanol. Goes right through the stomach wall into the blood, and dogs handle it about as well as, badly. Wobbly, glassy-eyed, body temp dropping, blood sugar crashing, and people stand there thinking the dog's being weird until it's very obviously not weird. The tell is a dog that seems drunk with a belly tight like a drum, retching and bringing nothing up. That combination, you go. You don't wait it out. And no, baked bread isn't the issue. Baked bread is dead yeast. It's bread. It's fine. It's the raw stuff. Pizza dough on the counter, rolls rising under a towel, sourdough somebody left out overnight. Counter height means nothing to a motivated dog. A corn cob is just about the diameter of a dog's small intestine. That's the whole problem in one sentence, honestly. Dogs don't really chew a cob, they bite it into segments and swallow. 2-inch chunk goes down, stomach hits it with acid, and nothing. Doesn't soften, doesn't dissolve, just sits there being a little log of woody fiber. Then it moves along into the intestine and wedges. Cobs are near the top of the list of things surgeons pull out of dogs, right up there with socks and, chunks of squeaky toy. And it hides. Cobs barely show up on a plain X-ray, not dense like bone. So you can shoot a film, see basically nothing, and the dog's still blocked solid, which is why it usually ends up being an ultrasound or a surgeon going in to look around. Blocked means nothing passes, and the blood supply to the gut wall on either side of it starts to fail. At that point, you're into a resection. A surgeon removes the damaged section and reconnects the healthy ends. It's major abdominal surgery. It's expensive, and the recovery is not quick. All of which is avoidable by putting a lid on the trash can. What it looks like. Vomiting over and over, especially right after drinking water. Won't eat, hunched up, no poop for a day. Sometimes just weirdly quiet, which people read as tired. Backyard barbecue is where this happens. Plate balanced on a chair arm, a kid handing stuff down under the table, trash bag full of husks and cobs sitting by the door. Dogs go through trash bags. That's the whole job description. That coffee can of bacon grease people used to keep next to the stove? Pour a little over the dog's kibble as a treat. And the dog loved it, obviously, because dogs love fat more than they love you. Okay, so the pancreas sits there making the enzymes that break down fat, and normally those don't switch on until they're safely out in the intestine. Dump a big load of grease in, and the whole system kind of overfires. Enzymes wake up early inside the pancreas and start breaking down the organ that made them instead of the meal it was sent for. That's pancreatitis. It's inflammatory, it's genuinely painful, and it's one of the most common reasons a dog ends up on IV fluids for a couple of days. And it doesn't have to build up over years. One meal can do it. One good, greasy holiday plate scraped into the bowl. Emergency vets basically brace for the days after Thanksgiving. That's how reliable it is. The tell is the posture. Front end down, rear end up, like a play bow that never ends. That's a dog whose gut is on fire. Throwing up, won't eat, just sort of switched off and miserable. Some dogs are wired worse for it. Schnauzers, Yorkies, dogs already carrying extra weight. I don't know why the little terrier types draw the short straw there, but they do. And what gets me is how harmless it feels going in. A spoonful of drippings, the fat you trimmed off the steak. Nobody looks at that and thinks poisoning. Fine, it isn't poisoning. The pancreas doesn't care what you called it. A scoop of pre-workout powder runs about 300 milligrams of caffeine. Some of the aggressive ones, more. So the tub's on the floor, lid half on, gym bag knocked over, and a dog gets into it. That's not a sip of coffee off the table. That's a dose. Caffeine's a methylxanthine, which is the same chemical family as theobromine, the thing that makes chocolate a problem. Caffeine's the meaner cousin. Goes after the heart and the nervous system at the same time, and dogs just don't clear it the way we do. It sits in them for hours. So 60-pound dog, big dog. People assume big dog, big buffer, and honestly there is one. A lab licking spilled coffee off the tile is probably fine, but that buffer stops meaning anything the second you're into concentrated stuff. Caffeine pills out of a purse, a bag of grounds pulled out of the trash and eaten, filter and all. What it looks like, the dog can't settle. Pacing, panting, won't lie down, eyes too wide. Then the shaking starts. Heart going somewhere it shouldn't be, temperature climbing, and once you're at seizures, you're already behind. And there's no antidote. Nothing you give that just cancels it. It's decontamination and support, fluids, drugs to slow the heart down, monitoring, and that works. It works really well, actually, if you go now, not in the morning, now. Person, that's the whole case against Avocado, that one word. And it shows up on every toxic food list like the matter's settled. And it is toxic to birds, really toxic. Budgies, canaries, chickens, that stuff can kill them. Horses and cattle too. But dogs? Dogs are kind of weirdly resistant to it. Nobody's even got a clean lethal dose for a dog because it's hard to make a dog sick on avocado flesh alone. Part of the reason is that person concentrates in the leaves, the bark, the skin, and the pit. Not really the part anyone's eating. Guatemalan-type cultivars carry the most of it, if you're keeping score. Neither fact changes the advice much. So the guac panic is mostly misplaced, I think. Mostly. Because the actual ER visits aren't coming from person. It's the pit. thing's the size of a golf ball and slick as anything, and a lab will swallow it whole without thinking twice, and then it just sits there. Or it moves halfway down and wedges. That's surgery. Actual surgery. Dog under anesthesia. 4 figures. Then there's the fat. Avocado's loaded with it. Great fat for you. Doesn't matter. A dog's pancreas doesn't read wellness blogs. Big greasy dose all at once, and the pancreas throws a fit, and pancreatitis hurts, like hospitalized hurts. Oh, and guacamole. Onion in it, garlic, a ton of salt. So yeah, keep the guac away, just not for the reason it's on the list for. I don't know. Dog licks a little avocado off your plate. I wouldn't lose sleep. Count your pits, though. A dog drinking seawater at the beach. That's the case that actually walks into the ER, and it's not the one anybody's worried about. But let's do jerky first, since it's on every list. An ounce of teriyaki beef jerky's got, 600 milligrams of sodium? Which is a lot. It is. It's just not enough to salt poison a 20-pound dog on its own. You'd need grams of salt per kilo of body weight, and no dog's putting away that much jerky before someone notices the bag's gone. The problem with jerky is everything else in it. Garlic powder, onion powder, and powder's concentrated, way more punch per gram than the fresh stuff. So 2 strips of the garlic teriyaki can do more than a slice of raw onion would. That's your ER visit right there. Real salt poisoning, though, the seizure level stuff, comes from weirder places. Ocean water, like I said. Ice melt off the sidewalk in January, licked straight off the paws. Homemade Play-Doh, which is honestly just a salt brick with food coloring. And then there's the old home remedy where people try to make a dog vomit by feeding it salt. That one's been abandoned by every poison control service I'm aware of, because it turns one emergency into 2. So let me be blunt about it. Never try to induce vomiting at home, with salt or with anything else. Call your vet or an animal poison control line first and let them tell you whether it's even the right move. And the part everybody gets wrong, you can't fix it with a big bowl of water. Bring the sodium down too fast and the brain swells. Let's do it slow, over a day or 2, on fluids. So small sips and go. Peanut butter's the one that gets people. Gum, okay, most folks have sort of clocked the gum thing by now. But peanut butter? You're standing at the counter, dog sitting perfectly for once in his life, and you hand him a spoonful, because it's peanuts. It's just peanuts. Some brands sweeten it with xylitol, and xylitol does something kind of strange in a dog. It fools the pancreas. The body reads it as sugar, dumps out a big load of insulin, and then there's nothing for that insulin to actually do. Blood sugar falls off a cliff. Sometimes inside 15 minutes, wobbling, vomiting, seizures, and a bigger dose can wreck the liver a day or 2 later. The amounts are small, too. Couple pieces of gum, a 10-pound dog. That's an emergency, not a... The part that bugs me is where they put it. Not the front of the jar. Back panel, tiny type. And half the time it doesn't even say xylitol anymore. It says birch sugar, which sounds like something you'd pick up at a farmer's market. And it's crept into everything. Mints, chewable vitamins, toothpaste, breath sprays, sugar-free baked stuff from the good bakery. For us, it's a totally different story, by the way. It's an approved sweetener for people, and past the stomach upset you get from eating a lot of it, most of us never think about it twice. Dogs just process it in a completely different way. So flip the jar. Every time, flip the jar. 4 seconds. Somebody sets a beer down on the coffee table, turns around to find the remote, comes back, and the dog's got his whole face in the glass. And everybody laughs. You've seen a version of that clip. Everybody's seen a version of that clip. Thing is, the dog weighs 14 pounds. You weigh what, 180? Same couple ounces of alcohol going into a body a 12th the size, and a dog has no tolerance built up and no instinct to stop. They go down fast. Stumbling, throwing up, and then body temperature drops, blood sugar drops, breathing goes slow and shallow. That's what actually hurts them, not the drunk part. The cold and the breathing. Beer is not even the main way it happens, weirdly. The one that gets people is bread dough, raw dough, the rising kind. Dog swallows a lump of it, and his stomach's basically a proofing drawer. Warm, dark, perfect. So the yeast keeps working, makes alcohol, makes gas, and now the dough's expanding in there while he's getting drunk off it. 2 emergencies for the price of 1. Then the stuff you don't file under alcohol at all: hand sanitizer, mouthwash, rum cake, tiramisu, anything soaked. And if anybody in the house brews their own beer, the spent hops are a whole separate nightmare. They can run a dog's temperature up high enough to kill him. Totally different mechanism. So no sips. Not a lick out of the glass, not a taste of the wine. I know it makes a great video. Just don't. Carrots. Just carrots. Raw, cut into coins so nobody tries to swallow one like a sword. And as far as your dog's concerned, you've handed over something from the good cabinet. Costs nothing, crunches. Dogs are easy that way. Green beans, same deal. Plain though. Not the casserole. The casserole's got onion in it, and we already covered why that's a problem. Quick thing. Some links in the description are affiliate links. Small cut for me, costs you nothing. Nobody paid to be on this list. Pumpkin's the one I'd actually push people toward. Canned pure pumpkin, the kind where the ingredient list is one word. Not pie filling. Pie filling's got sugar and spices in it, nutmeg included, and nutmeg's its own separate headache. A spoonful of the plain stuff mixed into a meal is a decent source of fiber, and plenty of owners find it helps a mildly unsettled gut. That's not me being a vet though, and it's not a treatment. If the upset stomach is more than mild, or it's dragging past a day, or there's blood or repeat vomiting in the picture, that's a vet call, not a pumpkin call. Blueberries. Apple slices, minus the core, minus the seeds. Watermelon, minus the rind, minus the seeds. And yeah, I know, at some point you're doing more prep for the dog than for yourself. Plain cooked chicken. No skin, no salt, nothing rubbed on it. Scrambled egg. Dry pan. White rice. That's the sad stomach menu, basically. Short term only, a couple of days at the outside, and ideally after you've checked in with your vet, because it isn't balanced and it isn't fixing whatever's actually going on down there. Peanut butter, okay, hang on. Peanut butter's fine. Peanut butter with xylitol in it is not fine. It's one of the worst things in this whole video. And to be fair, the big national brands don't use it. It turns up mostly in specialty, low sugar, and keto-style jars, which is exactly the kind of thing somebody buys with good intentions and then shares a spoonful of with the dog. So read the jar. It might say birch sugar instead, which is the same thing wearing a hat. Read it anyway. And look, all of this is the 10%. Treats, garnish, the thing you toss when you're cooking. The rule of thumb is treats stay under about 10% of what your dog eats in a day. Your dog's actual food is your dog's actual food. A pile of chicken and rice every night isn't a diet. It's a nutritional gap with good marketing. And I'll say this once and mean it for the whole video. I'm not your vet. If your dog's diabetic or has kidney disease or a history of pancreatitis or food allergies, then none of this list is automatically fine for them. Ask the person who actually knows your dog. Honestly, the whole safe list is kind of underwhelming when you see it written out, which I think is the point. The stuff that's fine is fine because it's boring. 90-pound lab gets into a bar of dark chocolate. That dog's probably having a bad night, vomiting, wired, generally miserable. 5-pound Yorkie, same bar, same exactly, and now you're in the car. Because it's not the food, it's the food divided by the dog. Toxic doses get measured per kilo of body weight, which sounds like textbook stuff until you actually run it. Your 90-pound lab weighs about 18 times what that 5-pound Yorkie weighs, so the Yorkie's taking roughly 18 times the hit off the identical piece of chocolate. Same math for onion, same for the caffeine in a dropped coffee pod. A grape? Well, grapes are their own weird thing. We'll leave those alone. They don't play by this rule at all. Xylitol's where it gets genuinely ugly, though. The dose that crashes a small dog's blood sugar is so small it's almost hard to talk about. A couple pieces of gum, 2. And a Chihuahua's entire circulating blood sugar is, not much to begin with. There's no buffer in there. Fat's the sneaky one nobody thinks about. Slice of pepperoni pizza to a big dog is a slice of pizza. To a 10-pound dog, that's you sitting down and putting away close to 2 entire pizzas. Pancreas doesn't love that. Pancreas, in fact, has opinions. And in some dogs, one greasy meal is genuinely all it takes to set off pancreatitis. Now, the flip side, and I want to be clear about this because people take the wrong lesson, big dogs aren't safe. They've got margin. Margin's not safety. And big dogs countersurf, so they're the ones eating the whole tray of brownies instead of one brownie. The margin gets eaten right back. The other thing, please don't sit at your kitchen table doing per kilo math at 11 at night to decide whether this is worth a phone call. Poison control does that math for a living, and they do it faster than you will. You give them the weight, the thing, the amount, roughly when. They tell you. That's the whole job. Weight, thing, amount, when. Somebody's already typing it. Their lab got into a whole bag of grapes off the counter back in 2019, and he's 9 now, still out there bullying squirrels. And I believe them. That dog is genuinely fine. It also tells us basically nothing. Grapes are the weird one, right? Nobody was even sure what the toxic part was for years. Best current guess is tartaric acid, and the amount of that in a grape swings wildly depending on the variety, the ripeness, where it grew. So 2 dogs, same weight, same handful of grapes. One shrugs it off, one's in kidney failure by Thursday. That's not a story about your dog being tough. That's a story about which bag of grapes was sitting on the counter. A 100-pound Mastiff eating 1 milk chocolate bar is probably going to shrug it off entirely. A 12-pound Terrier eating that exact same bar is a bad night. And a 12-pound Terrier eating a bar of baking chocolate is a completely different phone call because baking chocolate carries something like 8 times the theobromine. Same word on the wrapper, wildly different math. And honestly, was fine is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Fine according to who? You didn't run blood work. Onions and garlic are the sneaky ones here, because that damage stacks. A little bit in the leftovers, a little bit in the gravy, week after week. And the red blood cells are getting chewed up quietly the whole time. Dog seems normal. Dog's tired, maybe? You'd never clock it. The other part, and this is the part that gets me, you're only hearing from the people whose dogs made it. Obviously. The guy whose beagle didn't isn't in the comment section defending onion powder. He's not writing that post. So the whole conversation is stacked, permanently in one direction, and everybody walks away thinking the odds are better than they are. I don't know. Your dog surviving something isn't evidence the thing is safe. It's evidence your dog survived it, which you find out afterward, every time. Write down the time. Seriously, before anything else, look at the clock, write it down, because the first thing anybody's going to ask you is when. And 20 minutes ago, maybe, is a way worse answer than 8:14. Then grab the wrapper, the bag, the box, the gum packet, whatever's left of it. You're not reading it for yourself. The person on the phone wants the ingredient list, and they want to know if the word xylitol is on it, and they want to know how much was in there before your dog got to it. Then you call your vet, the nearest emergency clinic, or ASPCA Animal Poison Control at 888-426-4435, or the Pet Poison Helpline at 855-764-7661. They'll give your vet a case number, and the vet will actually use it. What you don't do is the hydrogen peroxide thing. I know that's the advice everybody's grandmother gives. It was standard for years. It's fallen out of favor pretty hard because peroxide can tear up the stomach lining, and if the thing your dog ate was caustic, cleaner, batteries, that kind of business, bringing it back up just burns everything twice on the way out. And if your dog's already wobbly or out of it or seizing, making them vomit can send it straight into the lungs. So please don't freelance this at home. And please don't take a dose off the internet. If it's the right call for your dog, the vet or the poison line will tell you, and they'll give you the amount themselves. Otherwise, the best thing you can do with that time is get in the car. Same goes for the folk stuff. Milk doesn't neutralize anything. Salt is not a home remedy. Please don't use it to make a dog throw up, because the sodium load by itself can be lethal, and I'd rather you hear that from me than find it out the hard way. Activated charcoal is a real treatment, but it gets dosed by a vet. It's the wrong move for some poisons, and the tub in your medicine cabinet isn't a plan. And don't sit around waiting for symptoms. That's the part people get wrong. With grapes, with xylitol, with antifreeze, the dog looks completely normal for hours, bouncing around, fine. By the time something's visibly off, you're behind. If you're thinking, but it was barely any, okay. Call anyway. And fair warning, the poison control lines do charge a consultation fee, somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 to $100, so don't let that catch you off guard on the phone. Worst case, somebody tells you your dog's fine and you're out that and an evening. That's a good night.